Hello once again to my amazing viewers. You're all welcome to Let's Talk with Esther Agbi. I am Esther Agbi. I hope you had a very spectacular festive period. I have here today with me my son David, and then we're going to talk about the topic. So the title of my topic today is Taxes Enslavement. Taxes enslavement. So we are in a very critical period. You know, people are talking about recession. Various governments are looking into the situation. So money is really tight, you know, in governments, in personal purses and things like that. So we want to talk about taxes. You know, people say, oh, well, I've worked very hard and this is my money. Why should the government now encroach into my money and take taxes, you know, from it? Absolutely. So that's why I'm saying taxes enslavement. How do you see it?
Well, I think it's not really enslavement because, you know, when it comes to slavery, I think of things like the slavery that was in the U.S. with the long time ago, like the chattel slavery, where the people who are working are not seeing the produce of the work, right? Mm-hmm. They're people who are, you know, being forced against their will to pay and not obtaining the benefits of that work, right? So that to me is slavery. But in the case of tax, when you pay the tax, you get to see the benefit in some form, whether it's in the form of schools, mm-hmm. whether it's in the form of, you know, infrastructure like roads, mm-hmm. traffic lights, mm-hmm. parks for children to play in, mm-hmm. or whether it's even in something as simple as, you know, clean water or your sewage system. So all of those things, the money you're paying in tax is going towards, in theory anyway, and so I don't think it's enslavement at all.
Okay. Thank you very much for that contribution. And you know, human beings, we are all the same. Right from Bible days, we know that people have been talking about taxes. Like the Pharisees, they came to Jesus to inquire if they were to actually pay taxes to the government or to God. You know, and what was the response of Christ?
Well, he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar and give to God what is God's.
Do you think they were satisfied with that answer?
Well, I'm not sure. I will not say they're satisfied because, of course, we know what happened after with the whole Jesus story, but you know, at least it was an answer that put it just quelled any further discussion because it was very clear what it was trying to say. You know, you can give to Caesar what is Caesar's in the sense that, you know, whatever is needed for the benefit of the society, you have to pay it, right? As a citizen of the society, you have to pay what is necessary to pay to Caesar, to pay to the government. At the same time, that should not preclude you from giving to the church. That should not preclude you or using that as an excuse to say, oh, because I've paid to Caesar, therefore I won't, you know, give some form of offering or tithe or what have you. So
yeah. And talking about the tithe, you know, in those days they were using the tithe to help the poor people, people who had disabilities or couldn't take more care for themselves or things like that, or people who didn't just have due to one problem or the other. That was what those things were meant for, and also for the Levites who were not working or who were working solely in the temple.
Absolutely.
So those things were what the tithes and those things were meant for.
Absolutely.
But now, in this current day, some people, they tend to, because I hear in the news, they say, oh, this person has been charged to court, he didn't pay his taxes, you know. So these taxes are mandatory. But in certain instances, like the government can take it from source right before you get your paycheck.
Absolutely.
But for some businesses, you have to pay voluntarily. Though it's voluntary, but then it's kind of mandatory because sometimes the government, the CRA, they check, okay, who has not paid their taxes. And people tend to evade tax. Why do you think some people may want to do that?
Well, some of them, it's just greed, right? As we see, they'll say they don't want to pay tax, but then they'll buy a Ferrari or they'll buy, you know, some other nice car, big houses, you know, millions of dollars that they're spending. Of course, those people, I think, have the money to pay the tax. But then there are others who, you know, may say that I don't want to pay the tax to a society because they're not doing what I think they should be doing. For example,
with their money.
With their money. They will say, I don't want the money to be spent on war, for example. I don't want the government to just be going to all these wars that are not benefiting me and they're not contributing to my well-being. You know, they're not defending, for example, the homeland. They're just, you know, spending it on whatever. So, you know, there are legitimate reasons people may say that they don't want to pay the tax. And as a result, they'll say, I would rather just do it myself. Mm-hmm. I'd rather just, you know, pay, you know, selective portions, or even if there was a system to say, oh, I only want my money to go to this, this, and this, and not this and this, they would be okay with that. So
Yeah, but if we look at what the taxes are being used for, right now people will say, oh, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm strong, I'm this and that and that. I don't need the government's money. But with time, I see some people, they lose their job and then they fall back on the employment insurance, right? And the government pays them a certain amount of money before they can get another job. And not only employment insurance, you also have old age security. When people get very old, they cannot work and they don't have so much money to sustain themselves. The government steps in to do something like that. So when you look at those things that the taxes are used for, don't you think it's we should be excited, to pay our taxes?
I'm not sure anybody that would say they're excited to pay the tax. Of course, we would love if there was a free lunch, but there's no free lunch. So you have to contribute, something, right? Now you can say, oh, I don't like the way the government is spending it on certain things, or you can say, oh, poor people, for example, you could say, we don't want to be, aiding them and abetting them into just being lazy. Some people make that argument. Whereas the other side will say, yeah, but you don't know people's circumstance, they could be really genuinely in need. So those kind of things you can say, well, you can decide on that in policy. But as far as the government goes, particularly when it's a democratic government, if they've been elected by the people, that means the majority of the people in that society have said, this is the people we want to represent us, and we want to make these kind of financial decisions. And so as a member of that society, you agree that, as part of the society, you will submit to that government and submit to the rulers and thus pay the taxes, even if they may not be going with what you would want the taxes to be spent on.
Yeah, and there are individual differences. You may not want certain things or like certain things, but other group of people may also like certain things. So
Absolutely.
How do you resolve that?
Absolutely.
It's difficult. So
it's difficult. But that's what, again, if it's a democratic society, that's why they have the elections, right? And so if you really don't like something that the government is doing, you just vote the next time for a better group. Or you could even leave the society altogether and move to a different society. That's also another route. But as long as you're an active member of that society, you have to submit to it. And, with time, the hope is that, another government may come in and they will do some more things that you would like to see them doing.
Okay. So based on what we have discussed, are we so excited to pay our taxes right now?
Well, you know what? This will be released hopefully here in the beginning of the year. So a couple months time, the taxes will be due for most people.
So we should be motivated to pay our taxes based on what we have discussed, knowing that the money is not just being thrown away, especially in developed countries. We can see exactly what it's being used for. The snow remover, when there's snow everywhere, it's slippery.
Absolutely.
You see the government come in, they do their own work.
Absolutely.
They repair the roads, they do facilities like transportation system. Everything is easy, straightforward.
Absolutely.
All these things are what the taxes are being used for, like sports complexes, when we go and do our own exercises and gym and run around and do things like that. And
Absolutely.
the children also have fun.
Absolutely.
So based on all of this, I think it is necessary and it is good practice for us to pay our taxes and also to be in good standing with the government and also with God, because God has put those people in authority where they are.
That's
so
true.
we are supposed to be subject to authority.
That's also very true.
Yeah. Do you have any last thing to say here?
Well, no, I think it's just that the tax, you can just say, is a representation of what the government is. The tax is just being collected by the government, which is usually elected in a democratic society to do what it is that the people it elected it want, right? And so if you really are against paying the tax, I would say either elect a different government, make sure that should motivate you to vote. You see some people, they don't go out and vote, they just sit back at home and then they're always complaining, why is the government spending on this or on that? Make sure you always go out and vote and, get other people in your community to vote. Try and persuade them to your point of view. And slowly but surely, you'll see the change in your society that you want to see.
Okay, that's very good. Very well said. Thank you very much for watching. If you have similar views, opposing views, leave them in the comment section. I want to hear and learn one or two things from you. Thank you very much for watching. See you very soon. Bye for now.